all you have to be is interesting, and it has to lead into your music.
You are now listening to the Creative Juice podcast, brought to you by Entrepreneur.io.
What's up, Indies? Welcome back to Creative Juice. This is the podcast where we cover growing and monetizing a fan base and building a music career with marketing strategies that are working right now, based on what we see every single day, inside of our music marketing agency and across our community of thousands of artists and bands. I hope you enjoy and subscribe. This is episode 398. And if you're feeling stuck...
We're approaching 400 episodes. You got to have a little fun with it or it'll get stale, dude.
This is episode 398. And if you're feeling stuck today, I'm your host, Jack McCarthy. And with me, as always, is Circa to help you get unstuck. Cirque, what's up, dude?
Not much, dude. I'm just out here programming AI agents, dude. You know how it goes.
I sure do. Much more to come on that front in the near future as well, as we roll closer and closer to the end of 2025, which is crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Pretty wild. If you feel like your music career isn't growing and you want to know what to fix, this is the episode where we're going to help you figure out where to fix the bottlenecks in your music career. I think this is important. It's going to be a strategic episode to help you identify where you need to put your attention and where you need to prioritize. Because oftentimes, I think artists, when they get stuck or when they feel like something isn't growing, they look at all the places where it could possibly be solved, when really they only need to find one or two and focus intensely on those areas. And this is true in all kinds of businesses as well, but especially music businesses, creative businesses. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm excited to dive into it.
Let's talk about it. Let's give it a little chat.
The buddy system is a really good starting point, I think, for this, because it allows you to zoom out 30,000 feet and say, okay, what can I take stock of in my fan base, with my customers, in my business as a whole, from a customer journey perspective, from a revenue perspective, and from a what am I doing and what aren't I doing perspective, to be able to say, okay, here's the weak spots. And I think that's probably like point number one. If you're feeling like your music career isn't growing and you're like, what do I fix, man? Like, is it something with, do I need more connections? Do I need to make more music? Do I need to make the music better? Do I need to sit in the studio and create for longer? Do I need to spend more money on production? Does my content suck? Do I need to learn how to advertise better? Does my merch suck? Do I just need to hit the road for months and make it better? These are all the things that I think artists spiral into when they're like, I just feel like I've plateaued and I don't know where to go. And this question came up yesterday. Actually, I was talking with someone and they were asking me about the various bottlenecks that artists experience at different stages in their career. And so that kind of inspired this topic for us to talk about today, because I think it's something that is really common across pretty much every level of having a business, from day one to I'm finally getting going and getting some momentum here and people are starting to pay attention to me, to, well, I feel like I've been, kind of in the same place for a while, even if I'm super successful. And the buddy system is a great place to start.
Yeah. Should we talk about what is the buddy system, or do we assume everyone knows by now?
Yeah, let's touch on it. A short little recap is probably helpful.
Cool. Well, yeah, if you're watching this episode and you don't know what the buddy system is, it's just a heuristic. It's like a learning tool we use, communication tool, to talk about two things at once. The first thing is the stages of fandom that people go through. So they go from never having heard of you to I saw something from you, I recognize your name, to, oh, I've watched some of your stuff, I know who you are, to, oh, I actually signed up for your thing. You can email me, you can text message me, you have my contact info. we're on that basis, to I've actually bought some of your stuff, bought something from you, to I've bought multiple things from you and you can contact me, to like, I freaking shout you from the rooftops, I'm your biggest fan. And we can all kind of agree that those are stages that a fan goes through from never having heard of you to your biggest fan, right? These are necessarily sequential stages. We also can think of these as areas of your business / marketing. It's not just your marketing because it also involves selling stuff, which isn't exclusively marketing. It's also logistics and fulfillment and, all this type of stuff. So it's not just marketing, but it's mostly marketing. It's mostly how do we move people from one stage to the next logical stage or more? How do we create movement along these stages? And campaigns at every stage can really make it easy to think about your marketing, because it's like, well, probably the marketing I should use to get people who have seen me once or twice to watching my stuff is different than the marketing I should use to get people from my email list to buying something. They're different things. And we use this to break it up, because if you go and talk to people who have only heard of you once or twice, in the same way that you talk to people who are on your email list, have given you permission to contact them, you either will talk to them inappropriately in the email direction, meaning you'll just be too familiar with them. You'll be talking above them. They don't care about you yet. So you're not doing your job of getting their attention as if you haven't earned it yet. Or you are talking to your email folks like you just met them and they don't know who you are, which completely loses the opportunity there. So that's why we break it up this way. That's why we separate our marketing campaigns to some degree along these lines, is because it helps us think about it and talk about it in a way where we don't run into errors like talking to people the wrong way or missing opportunities.
For sure. Yeah. That's a helpful primer, I think. And maybe that feels, if you've never heard of this concept before, if you listened to this podcast for a while, you probably have heard us talk about it. But if you haven't, or if it's still overwhelming to you, the buddy system can also kind of be broken down into like 3 major areas. And we've started to talk about it and the growth of a music career and marketing in a music career like this. There are really 3 main things that happen. It's you create attention, you capture attention, and you monetize attention. And if you're stuck and you feel like your music career isn't growing when it comes to your fans, it's probably because there's a deficiency in one of those 3 areas, depending on where you're starting from.
Yeah. I mean, really, it's like, I would say we could even break it down. Like, we could assign a key main problem for each of those 3, which is like, when it comes to getting attention, chances are you're just not being that interesting for people who don't already have a reason to care about you. Yeah. You aren't putting out enough content, or that content isn't attention grabbing enough, and meeting people where they're at. Where they're at is, I'm on social media. There's a million messages. There's no paucity of messages. I can get other marketing messages. I can get other forms of entertainment. If you don't fit the bill, you have maybe 3 seconds to fit the bill, and that's being generous. Go.
Yeah,
that's what they're asking. If you're not meeting them there, if you're saying, well, let's do a big long intro where we fade in from black and then we roll into, and it takes like 20 seconds to get to the point. Like, okay, you're not meeting people where they're at. That's stage 1. That's problem 1. Stage 2, capturing attention. People just don't do this. That's like, it's a really easy one. Yeah. Main problem is you don't have any way in which people could sign up for your email list or text message list, or the offer that you're giving them to sign up to your text or email list is shit. It's like, get updates. And updates is, it's not even clear what updates means. Updates for your tour, updates for you're going to release a new album soon. Like, I could probably get that off of social media. Like, I don't need to give me my email for that. And then 3, monetizing attention. I would say the biggest problem is people think they should do this when they haven't done 2 and 1 yet. That's like one of the biggest, I would say. But the second biggest is that people don't do this. So people will do 1 and 2 really effectively, and then they just don't really offer products. They don't have products to offer. They don't make those offers nearly as often as they should. So it's either they are too eager to do this or they're too scared to do this. We rarely find problems with actually executing on it once they realize they should or shouldn't do it.
Yeah, it's true. That's a super binary right there that we often see is at the monetize attention stage, it's either doing it too early when there's not enough of a critical mass at stages 1 and 2 for it to make any meaningful impact on you, and then it feels deflating. Or you've done so much at 1 and 2, or oftentimes just 1, honestly, and then you're doing nothing at 3, and you're relying on mostly streaming revenue, touring revenue, brand partnerships, and things like that, as opposed to direct monetization that you control through making offers to those fans that love you. And that's the second half of the binary.
I would say even that, like, for stages 1 and 2, get attention and capture attention. I would say I would be happy if you told me all you can tell people is the problems you just told them, the 2 big problems. I feel like I would be able to leave behind at least enough, a maximal amount of good to independent musicians everywhere if I were to tell them, for getting attention, be more interesting, stop boring people, get to the point, realize you only have 2 seconds to get attention, and they don't have any reason to care about what you care about. So figure out what they care about and put it in the first 2 seconds and make them, hook them. Like, that would be one for stage 1. For 2, it would be give cool shit away in return for people's contact information. That's it. And I would feel really good about that. For 3, though, this binary, there's lots of little sub issues. There's lots of nuance. There's much more nuanced problems in the 3rd stage, monetizing attention. Because even if you know that you should be making more offers, and you actually should, so you should and you know it, and you're ready to do it, you can make the mistakes, all types of other mistakes we see. Like, you don't offer enough products. You don't price them high enough.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's another thing, is like, or you rather, like, you have an entry level offer, which is okay. It's okay to have something low price, but then you have nothing else that's higher priced. Those are, like, there's lots of little mistakes, little nuances people make in this stage, but the first 2 is pretty obvious, the most common thing.
Yeah. And hopefully, as we've started to unpack these 3 sort of umbrellas, maybe you're starting to self-sort if you're asking this question of, like, what do I fix first? Hopefully, you're starting to sort yourself into one of these areas, because that's kind of the purpose of us talking about it. I will say, at the first stage, creating attention, right? Getting attention. Everything you just said is true. You need to get to the point. Be more interesting is really, like, such a great command for that, because it forces you to think about the ways that you're not interesting. Like, how am I coming across boring online? I will say, just to add
boring might not be a helpful term.
Yeah.
Because you can be interesting and still not be attention grabbing.
True.
Yeah. Like, I'll watch a philosophy, like, 40-minute YouTube video about Rorty, and it's like, wow, this is really interesting to me. I'm fully engaged in, like, a late stage philosophy, like, or late philosophy in general, like, right now. That's me. But it's not interesting in the general sense,
right,
where, like, the average person scrolling YouTube is not going to select out the 40-minute Rorty interview, right? They're gonna go for, like, the 2-minute, all of Western philosophy in 2 minutes. Like, that's their speed. And it's like, great. Now you kind of understand, like, when it comes to this stage, people are short on time. They are not nuanced. They're general. And you're much better off activating curiosity and FOMO than you are activating people's individual, very hyper-specific interests.
Hey, for what it's worth, I watched an 1.5 hour long video about what happened to Sauron after the One Ring was destroyed in Lord of the Rings on Friday night.
This is a very middle of funnel, middle stage.
Yeah. we can talk about that in a second, because that's capture attention, right? But when it comes to getting attention, being more interesting and being quick about it, and realizing that you have a very small attention span to work with, is really important. This is also, to add a little bit of more context and color around this stage, this is also the area where developing a critical eye towards the actual quality of your songs, the production quality of those songs, and the quality of your content is really important. It's hard to be objective. When I was talking about this yesterday to the gentleman that I was having the conversation with, I was like, yeah, this is kind of where the rubber meets the road for artists, because you have to look critically and be like, am I at the sweet spot where I don't have to make mix number 1,000,001? Or am I like really putting out something that's just not as good as it needs to be? And that's tough, but it is real. Like, it's something that the product has to be good here. And in some ways, I hate saying that because, like, you hear it talked about all the time in music circles. The product's got to be good. You got to make the product good. But the truth of it is, if you want to be able to get attention, you have to have good music. You have to.
Yeah, that's not to say you have to have incredibly high production value music to get attention. So if we're really limiting the scope of what we're saying here, if we're saying like, what do you need to get attention? What does music need to be like? Well, it just needs to be attention getting. It could be a shitty, like, do you remember the CKY, like Chinese freestyle?
Yeah.
Very bad recording, very incendiary and irreverent. Not going to be on the radio ever, but everyone knows it who's our age.
Yeah.
Very attention getting.
Yeah.
So like, so just to clarify, not that helps you because your music has to be high quality for a completely different reason, but just know that for this reason, like, all you have to be is interesting and it has to lead into your music. And one of my favorite obvious examples for this is Connor Price, because every video, like, he hacked the algorithm when it comes to this stage, which is like, first 2 seconds, he gives you a reason to stick around, a hook, a spinning globe, and he's going to stop at one point on it and collab with someone from that place on the earth. It's very like far reaching and global feeling, global community feeling. There's anticipation and suspense. You got to figure out what happens, how it resolves.
Yeah, you're waiting for the next thing.
You want to know where it stops. You want to know how he's going to end up collabing with them. You want to know if it's going to be good. You want to know what it's going to sound like instantly. As soon as you see the first 2 seconds, you want to know all that, because the thing he communicated to you in the first 2 seconds is, I'm going to spin this globe, point to a place, and wherever it stops, collab. That's really easy to communicate. It's quite concise. You understand every part. You don't need to be particularly smart to understand every part. And it makes you want to listen to his song, not because it's his song, but just because that's how he set it up.
Yeah. And it makes you want to know what the next one is going to look like. Where's he going to go next?
Oh, yeah, there's an obvious incentive to, once you've consumed that video, go find more.
Right.
So it does lead into that. But even if it didn't,
it wouldn't matter.
Yeah. So don't get too hung up on, oh, but this doesn't satisfy the constraint if it leads to all my other content. Just satisfy this constraint of, in the first 2 seconds, give them a reason to stick around that's compelling and that naturally leads to them listening to your music in one way or another.
Yeah, 100%. Now, in stage 2, capturing that attention, Cirque, I think you covered really well, talking about like, give people a reason to sign up for your list, text, email, give them a really good reason to do it.
And now you're free in this stage. You're free of that constraint of they don't care about you. You have 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Now this stage is only really for people who made it through stage 1. And that's why we staged this out, is because we can talk to them differently. We have a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. We have a little bit more time with them. They're more willing to like understand what you have to say, so you can explain more. What you're saying to them can be a little bit more complex.
When it comes to capturing attention, I think this is also something that a lot of artists struggle with once they've got attention creation happening continuously, because it's a bit of a dopamine hit to keep having that happen for you. You know, if you've got a formula that you like to use, or you've got ads running that you use to get fans into your world, very tempting to just only continue doing that and not do anything more interesting once they're there. It's like fans find you and then they go to your social media and they find nothing else about you. They find nothing else to do. They find nowhere else to go. And they don't really know, like, okay, like, this guy makes cool videos or this gal makes good music, but like, what are they doing? Is there something going on here? What's happening? Are they going on tour? Are they hanging out with their fans? Are they talking about are they going into the studio? Is there anything else going on? People want to lean in, and you need to give them stuff to lean into. This is where you stay interesting in a different way. And then that naturally allows you to bridge into, hey, sign up for my text list so that I can send you my next video before it drops. Wouldn't that be cool? You create that bridge with your content online. That's why we talk about like the, education stage of the buddy system, right? That second stage where you're starting to engage with people and give them stuff beyond just more attention getting, more people. You're taking the people who have engaged and you have got their attention and pulling them just a little bit deeper with you.
Yeah.
A lot of artists get stuck with this, like especially in like short form content zeitgeist, where if you go viral a couple times, all of a sudden you've got a TikTok profile or an Instagram profile with tens or hundreds of thousands of fans, but none of them want to do anything. None of them really have anything to do with you. They're just sort of there. It's definitely a big struggling point. And I think this is where you need to get really creative about what kinds of next steps you want your fans to take with you. And you need to be deliberate about that. And then you need to be consistent about how you do it. And it does take time.
Yeah.
And then there's the third stage, monetize attention. We kind of worked backwards here when talking about that binary, but I will say, like, to add again a bit more context and color to the two binaries of people try to dive right into stage 3, or they try to take a nonstop flight from stage 1 to stage 3 and you can't, or they get stuck in stage 1. And this is what I see with a lot of like major artists, is like they've done such a good job of getting attention and capturing it to some degree that monetizing it becomes an afterthought, especially when like brand deals come rolling in or touring comes rolling in, and it's, they're making money on streaming, and the actual process of active growth that they can do something about kind of goes out the window or becomes an afterthought. And that can be really challenging because there is a point where you will feel like you hit a plateau. I could imagine that I might get some like head scratches in saying that, but I've had so many conversations over the last 7 or 8 years with major artists who are like, yeah, like, the business is good, but I want more. And it's like, well, the biggest more lever is right here. It's just a big red button that you can push. You just have to start being consistent with it when it comes to the offers that you're making, when it comes to actually trying to sell to your fans, doing that consistently and building that into a cadence that stabilizes that revenue kind of roller coaster, right? The peaks and valleys of launches, the peaks and valleys of touring. Doing that is kind of like the biggest step you can take to getting unstuck there.
Yeah. And I think like we've seen both of these cases. I would say that the case where you're not, the third stage case where you're not offering products when you should be, is rarer, because getting to the third stage appropriately is rarer, and skipping to the third stage is much more common, right? So that's obvious.
That's that crazy Pareto distribution, right?
Right. Yeah. So many, many more people will skip to offering products and trying to like monetize their music career when they really don't have either the music quality level that's going to bring them there. Like it's a near impossibility. They're fighting an uphill battle because of the music quality. And that can be musicianship, but it can also just be production value. Like that's totally a thing. It's more often musicianship, obviously, but it can also be for other reasons. It can be, like, yeah, you're a great singer, but you should have a band. Like, and whatever you're doing for production here is not cutting it. You need another producer. You need a band. It could be songwriting. It could be production. It could be recording and mixing. It can be anything along the creation chain. Just to say that's obviously going to represent a wider swath of those who end up in stage 3 with problems. It's like, well, should you be here? That's like the most common case.
Yeah. How'd you get in this room?
Exactly. But actually, I would say it's not so obvious that the people who run into problems that aren't just like, hey, man, make more offers, offer more products, who should be in stage 3. Like, it's not so clear that the people who are hesitant to actually offer products when they're ready for it is smaller at all than the amount of people who screw up offering products. Meaning that, like, once you do rightly make it to a stage where you should be like monetizing your attention, you are just as likely to not do that as you are to screw it up.
That's so true. Yeah, that's a really great point. That's a really great point. That happens all over the place. Yeah, that's a whole nother sticking point.
We get clients in IndieX who are big boys and gals. There's no reason they should have this problem. And by their like total revenue generated and chart positions historically, like you would assume they wouldn't have this problem, but they do. They offer products when they have an album. And by offer products, I mean they put it on streaming. And then like their record label begrudgingly prints a couple of copies to show that, yes, we did do the physical thing. Right. But they're not happy about it. And if they have to print more, they're really not happy about it. If we sell out their 100 like token copies they printed just to show that like they remember when things were done this way,
I don't want to talk about it. Yeah.
we have to like pester them for weeks to print more. Right. So that does happen. And like, they're like, oh, we sell plenty. We do tours. We have these brand deals. And we're like, no. Your e-commerce store has not had new products in it since you last released an album. When that happened, you sent out an email to people. That was the only email you sent to them in years. And it was one email. And it just had a big HTML image embed in it that had the products plus the new album with some fancy colors. And then you never emailed them again. So no, I'm sorry, that doesn't qualify. You have 300,000 to 1 million to, in some cases, and literally we've seen this, 10 million fans on social media. And all you've done to offer them products in the last year is you sent one email. So no, you're not satisfying this. And so we see that a lot. It's actually more common than you might think for people who do all that hard work of getting to a place where they should be monetizing attention appropriately, and they just don't.
So if you're there, you need to do more. Like, really, that's kind of it. You need to do more. You need to communicate more offers to your fans. You need to offer more products to them more frequently. And that's kind of it. Like, that's the first part of getting unstuck if you're there. And there's tons of small tactics that you can deploy. But like, the biggest one is always that. Like 99% of the time, it's just like, oh, you need to send more emails and texts. You need to offer more stuff to your fans more frequently. And if you do that, you'll get growth at that stage.
Yeah, life will be good when you start doing that.
Yeah, 100%.
Insofar as you are motivated by your business doing better financially than it was previously, which is not a given.
Yeah, everything we've talked about so far today does have the prerequisite that you are trying to grow.
Yeah.
But assuming that you're asking the question, my music career isn't growing, what do I fix? These are the areas that you should aim to analyze, sort yourself into where the biggest constraint is for you, and then attack that area only first. And if you're not asking the question of like, what do I fix? And I don't care if I'm not growing, then yeah, I guess you can see yourself out and don't worry about it.
Totally. And be aware that just because you want to grow doesn't mean that everyone you've signed up with wants to grow. And if you signed a lifetime slave contract with the Revenue Prevention Department, they're going to prevent you from making revenue.
Mm-hmm.
And by that, we mean many, many managers, more than we care to mention, and record labels tend to be the Revenue Prevention Department when it comes to private means of monetizing your fan base. Private meaning you own it.
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't like you that.
There's tons of misguided advice that goes on in artist careers. And honestly, I think that's so often why we find artists who get stuck in one of these areas is because they've over-indexed in something at the wrong time or for too many times.
Oh, we've had to refactor our learning stack for progressive complexity. In programming, the concept of progressive complexity means if I need you to fill out a form, there's no reason you need to know every single part of what you need to do on the first page that I load. I can give it to you piece by piece so that you don't get overwhelmed. You say, like, give me your email. All right, let's check a few things. All right, well, your next field, given what we just checked, should be you've got a password and you don't have any other sign-in means. So I'm going to give you a password field with some stuff underneath in case you want to do the other things. Progressive complexity. Let's not overwhelm. Let's just give the minimal next step needed. Well, in our training, we didn't have progressive complexity. We just told you about all the things we know about all at once and you had access to it. And we've worked a lot of our work over the last 2-3 years has been to sort of untie that knot and add in some progressive complexity to the whole schema. And the upcoming major, refactor of how we do things in terms of education, it's based largely around that. It's like, let's not have you drink from the fire hose. Let's actually give you the next thing that you need and give you all the help you need to execute on it. And so when you encounter all these differing perspectives and opinions out there, recognize that the people giving you advice probably don't care enough about the goal. I won't make that assertion. Let's just say that for whatever reason, they're not organizing the information they're giving you based on who their audience is, what's right for them right now,
Right.
what are they ready to hear. So you'll have someone who has a general audience, 100,000 YouTube subscribers, and they're talking about stuff that necessarily can only apply to 20% of them. And they're confusing the other 80% of them. So that's just going to happen.
And that applies to, or can apply to, people on your team as well. That's why I think it's helpful to have a analysis sort of framework to think about when you're asking these kinds of questions, so that if you've got a manager or a label team or a band or whoever it is that you work with in your music business, that you can explore these ideas together. And that way, if someone says to you, hey, artist with 500,000 fans on Instagram, I think the real problem with your growth is that you just don't have enough fans and you need more of them. And so you need to make better content, even though you go viral regularly. You can be like, no, I don't think that's it. I don't think that's the answer. I don't think that's where I'm stuck. And you know how to analyze your career to do that. That was the purpose.
And let's be very clear. It's the rate, right? Like, you can always have more fans, but if you're gaining followers at 10K a week, your immediate challenge right now is probably not gaining. You're not big enough.
Right.
It's like, well, let this play out and I will be big enough. We just keep doing exactly what we're doing now. Logic shows I should grow at about 10K followers per week. Now we can increase that rate, but is that the biggest goal? Would it be the biggest goal if we had 0 new followers per week? Is it now though? Cause now I have 10K per week, right? It's a little bit, it's a bit diff, right? So, cause you'll get managers who are like, yeah, but you're not household name yet. And it's like, right, but that's not the goal near term. Right.
Right. Exactly.
Of course we could always be bigger, but let's contextualize this.
Yeah. So hopefully this was helpful for you guys. Gives you some useful frameworks to think through, things to analyze in your own career, boils down the customer journey, or chunks up the customer journey a bit for you into the 3 stages: create attention, capture attention, and monetize attention. If you can look at those areas in your own music career and figure out where it is that you're stuck and where to put your focus, that will help you build a marketing strategy that gets you growing again. And I hope that it does. So we'll see you guys next time on Creative Juice.
Peace out, y'all.
Can y'all really feel the East Coast?